Beep beep! What is up, ninjas? My name is Samworld. If I say arpeggio, your brain will probably instantly go like we've known to categorize arpeggios as these nice little up and down sort of melodic riffs that we get in music, that we hear in trance and whatnot. So don't stereotype arpeggios, guys. Arpeggios come in various shapes, sizes, forms. Some more sought after, while some are okay, you know, good to marry and live a long, happy life. But today we are going to be talking about how to make arpeggios for sort of like that Lane 8 style. I'm not going to say it's going to be exactly like Lane 8 because then I'll just be ripping off his music and copying the MIDI from one of his songs. But I'm going to teach you guys how you can achieve a similar vibe and what you can do and how you want to do it and approaching how to create your very own arpeggio for your songs. Now, arpeggios are known as broken chords. The reason for this is that, as you guys know, when you play a chord, you're hitting maybe 3-4 notes. The arpeggio is going to hit those same 3 or 4 notes, but it's going to be doing it one at a time, hence the term broken chord. Most arpeggios are going to be very stable with the chords they are hitting because you are going to be hitting the same notes that chord is playing. You cannot get anything to sound better than just that. Now, if you don't understand what stable and unstable means, stable means that you're playing a note that's part of your chord and it sounds pleasant and safe. When you're unstable, you create a bit more tension and it sounds unpleasant. The key thing you must realize with ARPS is that even though we are calling them broken chords and we're going to be hitting notes that are part of the chord progression, you can also hit unstable notes, notes that aren't part of the chord progression, as long as you follow it up with a note that is stable. Another important feature of the arpeggiator is going to be the rhythm that you decide to play it in. Arpeggios don't have to be they can also be ba 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 or Rhythm is very important with arpeggios, and that's what's going to help you create, again, that vibe. If you're going for uplifting, euphoric trance, then of course you can maybe go with a very fast one. However, if you're going for more of this mellow stuff like Lane 8, then we want to chill, we want to... With that being said, those are some of the important features of an arpeggio. Inside of Ableton, we're going to create our own, and I'm going to be going over more theory and more things that you can utilize to create arpeggiated melodies, as well as just arpeggios that go all the way through. As always, guys, if you want to support my channel, head over to evilsounds.com. That is going to be my sound design label where I release all my sound design work. I do have a sound bank that's going to be in this sort of style, in this ballpark. So if you're looking for that, it's going to be called Exploration. It's going to be for Serum, and it will be coming out later this month. With that being said, let's get straight into making our own arpeggio and talking about them. Welcome inside of Ableton. Now for this tutorial, we are going to be utilizing 2 sounds. The first one is a mellow sound there, and then we're going to utilize a sound which is meant to be inspired by Lane 8 and Andrew Holmes' Bluebird. Okay. With that being said, guys, when it comes to ARPs, I'm not going to lie, it's easier to set up an ARP when you have a chord progression that follows it. However, for me, a bass progression is enough as long as you understand the harmonic notes to that bass progression that would essentially turn it into a chord. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, guys, is create a chord progression. Okay, and I'm going to do one very simply like so, and we're going to talk a little bit about it as it's very important to realize what's going on. So here I picked these notes, which sounds like... Okay, a very standard chord progression here. And what I did for this, guys, is something called lead voicing. Now, lead voicing is a little fancy term, and it helps in creating chord progressions that just move well together. However, the problem with it is that you usually find yourself creating the same chords. For this type of music, it works really well, and you guys are going to see why as we create the ARP. But the way it works is pretty simple. We're going to have F major chord here as we're in A minor. And then we're just going to spread it out. And you're going to see something that stands out like a sore thumb. Obviously, if we kind of go like so, you're going to notice that a lot of chords overlap. In terms, this guy feeds into that. You can see these 2 guys feeds into this and that. So this is something called lead voicing. It's a good way to make chords that just move well between each other. However, the problem is that you can fall into the trap of just making it the same. For this genre, however, you're going to see this a lot. And the reason it works really well is due to the ARPs. If you leave an ARP the same, and obviously, as we talked about, something being stable is going to be a note hitting part of the chord, then that ARP's always going to be stable throughout these 3 chords. However, at the end, I decided to throw an oddball out, an odd one out there. Yota, what's up? Essentially, this one doesn't really overlap with any of them, as you can see. So in this scenario, if this was stable, or sorry, it was lead voiced, then the ARP could remain the same and just keep repeating. However, this section here is going to cause issues. And I wanted to put it on purpose just so you can see what we can do with that. It's actually not a bad thing. It can create a nice little melodic change in your track. So here we have our chord, bass progression. With that there, I'm going to bring this up here. All right, guys, so what I've done is I put the full chord out now instead of just having that bass progression, and I've zeroed it out. When you highlight notes and zero, you make them not play. So this is going to help me in just determining what notes I'm allowed to play, okay? Now, in creating the ARP, guys, like I said, a lot of people are going to categorize the ARP as this specific sound. You know, going up the scale. But that's not what we're going to be doing for this tutorial. I'm sure everyone knows how to do those kind of ARPs. For this tutorial, we're going to work and just create an ARP that doesn't follow that format. So let's create, essentially, first is just our ARP. Now remember, you don't have to be like that, or da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can definitely have a different rhythm. And we're going to find one. So I'm going to be using these two notes going up. Maybe we can switch this to be up and low. Again, this is stuff you can do. So I like so from there I can choose to either continue that ARP, so I could go maybe here and then go back down to A, okay, or you can just choose to get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is just do that. Now remember how I told you guys that we have a chord progression that is very lead voiced. What that means is that if I now decide to just do this, and let's see if we can do it properly there. You can see that that last note doesn't sound that great here. And that is just due to the fact that it's not stable with any of this at all. Okay, so let's create this arpeggio here. And then we're going to talk about how to make it different, make it more complex. So let's just set it up. Okay, so it sounds pretty good. Now, the next thing is that you might be going like, all right, Sen, we got that ARP going, but I just hate how it's so repetitive. How can we add a little bit of variation? This is something Nate does as well. So as we know, we're starting here on the F because our chord progression starts on the F. What I can do is I can harmonize. This doesn't have to start in F. We can make it start on A and vice versa. But let's assume we wanted to start at F. Well, what can I do? Well, I can start to switch these bottom notes out and have it follow the chord progression. So we know our chord progression is F and then A, so I could move this I up. And then here we're going to move down to that D, so we can start moving these notes down like so. And now here we're going to hit that E, so we're just going to... Now, as you can see, that D doesn't sound that great, and ideally it is stable, but it just doesn't sound good. So what I can do is maybe go to that F. If you think about it, D, and then you have that F and then that A in the chord, well, I can go to F and it's still going to be stable and it's going to harmonize really well. And it's going to create a melody that just repeats. We got A, we got our B part, we got our A. Okay, cool. Now, this last note is still causing issues, and that's just going to be due to these top notes here. Again, none of them are harmonic or stable with our chord, as you can see. So that becomes a big issue, and what are we going to do? So what I can easily do is I can make this just follow that note there, like so, and this is going to help. And it might not sound good, and it might. That's going to be something that we're going to have to work with. So I've lowered it down an octave. I thought it sounded too bright up there. Now, what's another thing you can do? You're like, all right, Sam, we got this. What can I do more? What can I add to variate this? Because right now I just don't like it. It's too simple. What you can start to do is you can start to move this top note up around as well to start to create sort of like a melody. This top note is going to change. So essentially, if you start to look at our ARP, these two notes are going to remain the same throughout it all, but those top notes are going to create that variation, that complexity. So we can start by moving the E, or start on the E, move it up, move it down. Okay, so that's going to create melody for us. So let's see. We can maybe move it down. And then start just creating melody with it. You can even maybe grab this note and make it work its way down. So that's going to help in just creating, again, a little bit more of a vibe to it. Now, another thing is that you don't have to have the notes be so plucky. A lot of people think ARP, they also think plucky. We can also utilize other sounds which are a little bit more sustained, and it can also create a very nice vibe. Now, some sounds are going to have no mono, so they can actually overlap, and this creates... So I've switched the chord progression up, guys, and I've had a new sound for the top line now, and we're going to make a new arpeggio just to kind of define what we've been talking about. So remember, it's always crucial that you have notes part of the chord to be stable, but you can also play notes not in the chord, but you just got to follow it up with something that is. ARPS, broken chords, you're going to be playing the same notes as the chord, but just, again, it doesn't have to be in the same format going up or down. You can make it in any way you want. So on the bottom here, we're going to have this chord progression, and we're going to be using this just as a guide, again, to help us out a bit there. So we're just going to go in. See it as a puzzle. You know, somewhere in this is your nice ARP melody or ARP progression or arpeggio that you want. So we're going to just go in here, and we're going to zero this out again. We'll have it at the bottom this time just so we can have it here, and then at the top we can go from there. So let's just do that. Yeah, there we go. So this time the chord progression, let's start it somewhere rather than the root note or the bass note there. Let's go with maybe A this time, or C instead of going here. There we go. So rhythm, again, very important, but we can kind of choose from. And then from there we can. Okay, let's add one more note here, maybe at the bottom. Just to make it more complex. You can even add more here if you want, like here we could go with an A now. To kind of start getting a little bit more faster, a little bit more fuller, or you can just go with the rhythm. So we'll go with that. Let's just get rid of this one here. And then we're just going to follow that. Now, when we hit this one, because it's not stable, you can see that the notes aren't overlapping there to this guy and this guy, but it is overlapping over here. We might have an issue here, so we're going to hear. Okay, so this part's sounding really off. So what we can do, again, is just transpose it so that we get more of those notes to be stable to that G. It's following the same pattern. It's just, again, moving along with it. So instead of hitting C, we're going to hit that B. Let's make sure the notes we have aren't, again, unstable there. So we're just going to do, out of scale. So there we might go with a G. Everything looks fine. And now we're gonna follow that up with maybe this guy again, because this is stable here. So to make our lives a lot easier, we can follow with this A again. And now we're just gonna hit this last portion here, over here. If I want to add a C part, so again, this is A, B, A, and then C. I could definitely go and just make these go down to, in our scenario, that would be maybe the E or a low C. So we can bring it up or we can bring it down. Let's go bringing it up so it's similar to this guy here. But now we're going to switch some of these notes up here. So let's see, we have C, E, and G. Why don't we try G instead? I don't think we've done that one. Now what we can do here is start to add a bit of change if that's what you want. We are switching with the chords, as you can see. This part here is similar to this, but we can definitely start to switch that top melody in certain parts. So just to refine this a bit more. I really like the change here. If instead of going with that D or that E, we can go with that C, and it creates such a nice harmony instead of having this same. And then this kind of gives us the answer to what we've been asking for all along here. I think this is. So there's another chord progression, or sorry, ARP progression that we have created utilizing chords. Again, all of this is going to bring tracks to life, guys. And the key thing is you have to realize is there's a lot more to it as well. A lot of these notes you can start to kind of pitch down in octaves to create more of a longer spanning ARP. So what I mean by that is we can definitely maybe grab all of these and pitch them down. So that way it creates this sort of nice vibe to it. So it would probably be like so. And we could try that out. I don't think it will work fully, but we'll see. Now just imagine all the content we need for making these kind of songs, and you're going to start to hear like the potential. Now for the last ARP, guys, we're going to do something that is very popular in trance, which are just gallops. So for instance, let's say here I have this, and I have this note playing, and then I have one like, well, let's give it a little bit more of a swing, and then go back down, and we'll do. Okay, essentially we're going to lower this down an octave. That's going to spread out the ARP more, and it's going to give us more of that jumpy feel. I don't know if Lane 8 does this. I think he does, but he doesn't do it in this trance gallop format, but this is something that you can do. You can also follow certain notes up by like going here. And then that creates it a little bit more complex. But again, it's all about that rhythm that you want in the song. And then we can follow that. We go down to that G, so we're going to move that down. And again, we're going to have to make sure these notes are in key. And then we're going to go, I believe, down to an F. Again, going down the transposition, you get a little bit out of key, so that's where you have to fix these. Now, if I bring in the lows back on this and I go into my effects, get rid of. And now from there, I could just start to switch however I want. I could start to make. And I could just start using notes that are part of the chord to kind of bridge that. So some notes don't have to be like I said, but now we can bridge this if that's what you want. So that would be maybe something like so. So that would be here, and maybe here we can. Again, these empty gaps that we have is what we're targeting. Only note I don't like is this one. Now, if you like what you have, and let's say you find it to be a bit too fast, you can always just highlight and go into Ableton and double tap. Now, if we do that and you actually like that, we run into the issue that our chord progression is just going to be too fast, obviously. However, there is a change to it. And this is where you have an ARP that you've created first, and now you make chords for it. So obviously, we want stuff that is stable. So A, G, F, and C are going to be notes that we can pick. So in the chord progression, I can definitely still do that. I know I'm still hitting that A note there. So I can go down to maybe F or that D for the chord progression. Now here, I believe it goes down to a G. So that's where this note is going to have to either be G, E. It can also be a C. So and now here we're going to go into an F. So an F is going to allow me to either go to a D, an F, and vice versa. So I can definitely do here. Maybe if we wanted to repeat, we can have this be an F instead. And now here it's still going to be F, I believe, in this section. So we have to follow it up with something, and D is perfect, so that chord progression works. And now that C at the end, we can hit that C there, and then, or we can hit the A to end the chord progression. So a lot of things you can do, guys. As you can see, we can double time it, we can do octaves and stuff, but that is going to be everything about arpeggios that you need to know. As long as you understand that arpeggios are going to be essentially broken chords, so it's your chord, but just being played one note at a time, different rhythm, it doesn't play in exact order, you should be fine. Alright guys, and that is going to be the end of the video. So in review, Arpeggios are broken chords, which means that it's pretty much your chord progression being played one note at a time. Now, the key thing as well is that it doesn't have to be played from bottom to up or up to bottom, or it doesn't have to be in the rate of 1/8, 1/16, 1/4, 1/12 the whole time. You can switch it up, of course. ARPs are going to be a great way to just introduce nice either background elements. If you have an ARP that is pretty simple, you can put a top melody on top of it. However, if you have an ARP that is very melodic, you got to be careful that your top melody doesn't fight with it. As long as you have all these things, you should be set to making arpeggio melodies, ARP-based songs like Lane 8. Like a lot of the stuff that you hear from these Ingenious Deep guys, not some of the newer stuff, but some of the older stuff. As always, if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments, tutorial suggestions, leave them in the comments. At the end of this month, hopefully, I will have explorations out with you so you can use sounds like the ones I used in this tutorial to create nice little tracks for yourself, for your fans, for the people that you're making music for. But most importantly of all, guys, I hope that this tutorial demystifies a couple of things for you guys. And most importantly of all, just have fun doing it. If you have a simple ARP, build on it, make it sound more complex. You guys saw how we did that. And use all the tools you have at your disposal to just get the best ARP that you can possibly for your track so that you can have fun. At the end of the day, it's all about having fun. With that being said, guys, you guys take care, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.